All right, strap in, everyone. We're going deep today.
Deep into brain chemistry.
Yeah, all that good stuff. How it affects our mood, well-being.
And you've given me a lot to work with. Articles, a YouTube transcript, even a historical document.
Looks like someone's been doing their homework.
Someone's interested in dopamine, serotonin.
Psychedelics, even.
It seems like you're really into those natural approaches to well-being.
You know me too well.
Maybe even a bit curious about some alternative views on mental health.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head.
Well, get ready for a wild ride then.
We're going to break it all down. How these brain chemicals actually work. What happens when they get out of whack.
And you know what else? We've got some really interesting historical tidbits about how these chemicals have been used.
You're going to blow some minds today.
Let's start with the basics, all right? Picture your brain like a busy city.
Okay, I'm picturing it. Lots of traffic.
And all these messengers are zipping around, delivering crucial information.
Those are the neurotransmitters, right?
You got it. They control everything. Your mood, your sleep,
Focus.
even your ability to move.
I keep seeing these 4 names pop up everywhere. Dopamine, serotonin, noradrenaline, and endorphins.
Those are the big players, for sure.
They're like the happiness all-stars.
Yeah. Each one has a very specific job to do.
Dopamine, I feel like that's the one everyone talks about.
It's the motivation molecule. Think about that rush you get when you achieve something.
Win a game. Finally finish that project.
It keeps us going, seeking out rewards.
Oh, that reminds me. I was reading this article from Doc Morris, I think, about how dopamine plays a role in addiction.
Right. Because drugs can flood your brain with dopamine.
Which gives you that high.
But your brain gets used to it. It wants more, more, more.
So it's essential, but we got to keep it in check.
Exactly. Too much of a good thing, you know.
Now, serotonin, that's the mood stabilizer, right?
It keeps things balanced. Your sleep, appetite, your emotions.
Like the calm and the chaos.
Exactly. And it's often linked to depression.
Yeah. In that Libby article, it talked about how antidepressants actually target serotonin.
Try to boost those levels to lift your mood.
But, like with dopamine, balance is key.
Oh, absolutely. That Doc Morris article mentions something called serotonin syndrome, which can happen if serotonin levels get too high. It can cause a bunch of problems.
So we got to find that happy medium.
Always about balance. Sure.
What about noradrenaline and endorphins? Those other 2 big names.
Oh, they're crucial too. Noradrenaline is your fight or flight guy.
Kicks in when we're stressed.
Gets you ready for action, heart racing, the whole 9 yards.
Get endorphin.
Those are the natural painkillers.
Like a runner's high, right?
Exactly. That feeling of euphoria, of well-being, laughter does it too.
Wow, it's crazy how these 4 little chemicals can orchestrate so much.
Huh.
This makes me think about something the Livy article talked about, that balance between dopamine and serotonin.
Yes. The dynamic duo.
It's not just about having tons of each, it's how they work together.
It's a partnership. Dopamine gives you that quick hit of pleasure, that instant gratification.
The spark.
But serotonin, it's about that long-term happiness.
The steady warmth, right?
Exactly. It's like the fire that keeps you cozy.
I love that. It seems like we're really interested in that sustainable well-being.
Not just those fleeting highs.
But wait, hold on. We're going to switch gears now.
Uh-huh.
Get ready for something completely different. Psychedelics.
This is where it gets really interesting. We have this document. It's called La Lettre de Rispad and Degree 39V2, BAT2-light.pdf. Kind of a mouthful.
Catchy.
But it talks about something pretty fascinating, the historical use of psychedelics.
Like way back in the day.
Specifically for treating addiction.
Now, that's not something you hear every day. Psychedelics for addiction.
Back in the mid-20th century, they were actually researching it.
Seriously?
Substances like LSD and mescaline.
Whoa. For treating alcoholism, right?
Exactly. And you know what's interesting? This was partly inspired by the Native American church.
Really?
They used peyote for similar purposes.
That's a cool connection.
They were really onto something, exploring the potential of these substances. But of course, research got shut down.
Oh, no, why?
Changing regulations, social stigma. You know the drill. Makes you wonder what could have been.
For sure. It feels like we're just starting to rediscover all this now.
And speaking of rediscovering, that YouTube video transcript you sent, that's where things get really wild.
DMT, baby. The spirit molecule.
Buckle up, because we're about to go deep into some first-hand accounts.
I'm ready. Hit me.
One thing that keeps coming up, The DMT experience is intense.
It's like hold on to your hat intense.
And it's over pretty quickly, like a blast off into another reality.
Sounds kind of terrifying, honestly.
People describe these crazy visuals, geometric patterns.
Even encounters with otherworldly beings. I read that in the transcript. Wow, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction. Makes you question what's even real, you know.
There are some theories about DMT's role in the brain. Some say it's naturally produced.
We're walking around with a little bit of the spirit molecule.
And maybe it's connected to dreams, near-death experiences, mystical states.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
The video also brings up some ethical concerns about using these substances.
Yeah, we got to be responsible.
Especially in uncontrolled environments.
It's like we're just scratching the surface here.
Absolutely. So much more to explore. We've got a lot to talk about.
Okay, I'm ready for part 2. Back again for more brain-bending fun.
Looks like we're diving even deeper into where science and spirituality meet.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by this whole idea of ancient practices through a modern lens.
You're right on time. This is an amazing time for this type of research.
It's like what mystics and shamans have known for centuries.
Science is just starting to catch up.
But hold on, let's bring it back down to earth for a sec.
Yeah.
What are the practical implications of all this? How can we use this knowledge?
You're asking the right questions. Think about mental health. There are conditions that haven't responded well to traditional therapy.
Like when nothing else seems to work?
But there have been studies using, well, you've heard of psilocybin, right?
Oh, yeah. Magic mushrooms?
It's showing real promise for treating depression and anxiety.
Seriously.
And ayahuasca
Right.
for addiction. And MDMA, they're looking at that for PTSD.
Wow. So these substances offer a whole new way of healing.
It's a different approach, for sure. Instead of just masking the symptom.
It goes deeper, right? Gets to the root of the problem.
By helping people connect, feel compassion, and understand themselves better.
They can break free from negative patterns, heal old wounds.
And find a real sense of purpose, a deeper meaning in life.
It's almost like a fast track to insights that can take years of therapy or spiritual practice.
Maybe not a fast track, but there's something powerful happening there.
We got to be careful though, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not a quick fix. Integration is key here.
What does that even mean, integration?
You have this profound experience. But then what?
Right, you can't just go back to life as usual.
It's about taking those insights, that new understanding.
And making them part of your everyday life.
Making conscious choices.
Yeah.
Doing things that support your well-being.
So it's like these experiences are just the starting point.
A catalyst for real, lasting change.
Changes in our relationships, how we work, how we interact with the world.
Exactly. And it's all connected to something else we need to talk about. The ethical side of things.
Right, because these substances can be, well, intense.
We have to have these conversations.
About responsible use, the risks, and the need for guidance.
We're dealing with something powerful here.
We have to approach these substances with respect. They can heal, but they can also harm.
So what are the ground rules? For responsible use, I mean.
Ground rules. Okay, listening.
Set and setting, that's the big one.
Keep saying that.
It's crucial. The environment needs to be safe.
Comfortable. Supportive.
You need to be clear about your intentions. And having a guide, someone you trust, that's essential.
Like a spiritual guide.
Or someone experienced with these substances. A facilitator.
To hold space for you. Make sure things don't go off the rails.
Exactly. And dosage, of course. Start low, go slow.
Baby steps. Got it.
And always, always be aware of any contraindications.
Like if you're on medication.
Or if you have certain health conditions. Do your research.
This started to sound kind of complicated.
Responsible use involves knowledge, preparation, and a healthy dose of caution.
Can't argue with that.
And there's another thing. We can't forget the cultural context here.
You mean like ayahuasca comes from indigenous traditions?
Exactly. We need to respect those traditions. Avoid appropriation.
We have to honor the cultures that have been using these medicines for centuries. Learn from their wisdom.
And as these substances become more mainstream,
like easier to access.
We need to advocate for ethical, sustainable practices.
Make sure they're used for healing, not for profit. Or worse, exploitation.
You're getting it. This isn't just about individual healing. It's about the well-being of everyone, the planet.
We have a responsibility here. Okay, I'm feeling the weight of that.
And speaking of weighty topics, let's go back to the YouTube video transcript.
Those personal accounts were pretty wild.
The people talking about entities, different dimensions.
Ego death?
Yeah. It makes you think, maybe there's more to reality than we see.
It challenges everything we think we know about consciousness.
Like, we're only seeing a tiny sliver of what's really out there.
Some people believe those experiences aren't just hallucinations.
Wait, what?
They might be glimpses into other realms, other realities.
Okay, now that's a mind-blowing concept. Is there any evidence for that?
Mainstream science has always dismissed these experiences, called them hallucinations. But now, things are changing.
Researchers are actually taking this stuff seriously.
More and more research is exploring these non-ordinary states of consciousness.
So maybe, just maybe, there are other dimensions, other realities.
The more we learn, the more we realize how much we don't know.
Right. It's like we're peeling back the layers of an onion.
And with every layer, there's more to discover, more questions to ask. This deep dive is really taking us down the rabbit hole, but I'm loving it. It's clear that you're really pushing those boundaries of knowledge, of consciousness.
And you seem drawn to this idea of transformation.
Using these experiences to grow, to heal, to connect with something bigger.
Something beyond ourselves.
That's exactly it. I want to live a more authentic life, a more fulfilling life.
Not just talk about it, actually live it.
You get me. And that brings us to this book you mentioned, A Sacred Path to a Life Money Can't Buy.
It's a powerful story about someone who walked away from it all.
From a high-paying job.
To pursue a life of meaning, guided by what he learned from these sacred medicines.
Wow. That's a huge leap of faith. He must have found something incredible.
He talks about connecting with nature, building real, meaningful relationships.
And living in alignment with your values.
It's about finding that balance between the excitement of dopamine and the peace of serotonin, but on a deeper level.
Like he figured out how to rewrite the rules of the game.
And it reminds us everyone's path is different. We can learn from others.
Be inspired by their journeys.
But ultimately, you have to find what works for you, what brings you that sense of well-being.
Okay, that's something I'll definitely be pondering. This deep dive has been full of food for thought. It's amazing how these substances can change our lives.
What's fascinating is that these experiences, as powerful as they are, they're not a one-size-fits-all solution.
It's not like popping a pill and all your problems disappear.
It's about embarking on a journey of self-exploration, healing, growth.
And that journey is different for everyone.
It requires an open mind, a willingness to face the unknown.
And respect for the power of these medicines. Okay, before we go any further, we need to talk about the risks. We can't just gloss over that.
Absolutely. We need to be honest about the potential downsides.
Because these substances are powerful and unpredictable.
Irresponsible use can have consequences.
What kind of risks are we talking about?
Well, sometimes people have challenging experiences, what they call a bad trip.
Oh yeah, I've heard about those.
It can be intense anxiety, fear.
Paranoia even?
Sometimes you feel disconnected from reality.
That sounds scary.
It can be. And there are a few things that can increase the risk.
Like what?
Set and setting. Again, that's so important. The environment, your mindset.
And dosage, right? Too much too soon.
And your personal history.
Yeah.
Your mental health. Some people are more vulnerable than others.
So, if you have a history of mental health issues,
be extra careful. Talk to a professional before even considering these substances.
Better safe than sorry.
Always. But even if you do everything right, challenging experiences can still happen.
Oh, no. So what do you do if you're having a bad trip?
First, remember, it's temporary. The effects will wear off. Focus on your breath. Feel your body.
Grounding techniques.
And remind yourself, you're safe, you're supported, if you have a guide with you.
That trusted facilitator.
Don't hesitate to ask for help. That's what they're there for.
Makes sense. Having someone there can really make a difference. But it sounds like there are other risks, too.
Unfortunately, yes. Some psychedelics, especially in high doses,
can trigger underlying mental health conditions.
Or make existing ones worse.
That's a serious concern.
It's a risk we can't ignore. If you have a history of psychosis, for example,
or schizophrenia,
psychedelics could be very dangerous.
So it's not just about being careful during the experience.
You need to consider your whole mental and physical health. Talk to a doctor.
This is sounding more and more like proceed with caution.
It's about being informed, making smart choices, and remembering psychedelics are not a substitute for professional help.
If you're struggling, you still need to see a therapist,
a
psychiatrist.
They can be part of your healing journey.
But they're not the whole picture.
Now let's talk about the healing potential.
Okay, because it sounds like these substances can really help people.
We've touched on it, but let's dive deeper.
I'm ready for a deep dive.
Psilocybin and depression. That's where a lot of the research is focused right now.
And they're seeing positive results.
Some studies show that even one dose of psilocybin
It's just one.
can have a big impact on depressive symptoms, I mean.
So how does it work?
It disrupts those negative thought patterns,
The ones that keep you stuck in a rut.
and it increases neuroplasticity.
Meaning?
Your brain can create new connections, change and adapt.
So you can rewire your brain for greater well-being. That's amazing.
There's also evidence that psilocybin can create feelings of awe.
Like a sense of wonder.
Exactly, a connection to something bigger than yourself.
Wow. It sounds like psilocybin can really shift your perspectives.
Now, what about ayahuasca and addiction? You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, that one really intrigues me. It's a traditional Amazonian brew, right?
It contains DMT, which can induce these profound mystical experiences.
The spirit molecule strikes again.
And those experiences can provide insights into the root causes of addiction.
Like, why am I doing this to myself? What's driving this behavior?
Exactly. And a lot of people report a renewed sense of purpose, a connection to something greater.
That's powerful stuff.
And there's evidence that ayahuasca can reduce craving,
Withdrawal symptoms.
making it easier to stay sober.
It sounds like it helps on so many levels. Physical, emotional, spiritual.
It's about healing the whole person, addressing those deeper needs.
And often these ceremonies, they're done in a group setting.
That sense of community is important. You're not alone in this.
It's like a tribe. People supporting each other on the journey.
And finally, we have MDMA and PTSD.
MDMA. That's ecstasy, right?
Yes, but in a therapeutic setting.
So it's about healing, not partying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
MDMA creates a feeling of safety, trust, openness,
So you can revisit traumatic memories
without being completely overwhelmed by them.
and process those emotions.
Yeah.
Let go of that pain.
Yeah.
Wow, this is truly revolutionary.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. To think these substances were demonized for so long.
Now we're seeing their potential. It's a whole new frontier in medicine.
But hold on, not so fast. This isn't for everyone, right?
Definitely not. There are people who should avoid psychedelics completely.
Okay, like who?
Anyone with a history of psychosis or certain heart conditions.
And people on medication should be careful.
There could be dangerous interactions.
This is serious stuff.
It is. It's important to consult with a professional. Get personalized advice.
Don't just experiment on your own.
And even if you're healthy, remember these substances are not a magic bullet.
They're powerful tools. But the real work comes afterward.
Integrating those insights, making lasting changes.
It's about taking responsibility for your healing journey.
Exactly. Which brings us back to set and setting, integration, and the need for guidance.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
Brain chemistry, benefits, risks.
The potential, the challenges.
What are your key takeaways?
Well, I'm definitely feeling more informed. And I'm still processing everything.
That's understandable. It's a lot to take in.
But I'm also feeling hopeful. Like, there's so much potential here.
There is, and that's what I want you to hold on to. But approach these substances with respect. They're not toys.
They're powerful medicines,
Right.
sacred medicines even.
Your journey is unique.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Trust your intuition, seek guidance, and be open to the journey.
It's like we've opened this door to a whole new world, this amazing, complex world inside our brains.
And we've just started to explore it.
We've talked about these happiness chemicals, dopamine, serotonin.
With the power of DMT.
But how does it all fit together? What does it mean for us, for our own well-being?
And this is where it gets really interesting, because it all connects back to your interest in natural approaches.
Right. We haven't even talked about diet, exercise.
Mindfulness. All of these can impact your brain chemistry. And that affects your mood, your overall well-being.
It's like we have so much power to change how we feel just by making different choices.
And speaking of natural approaches, there was something in that La Lettre de Respad document that caught my eye.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
The idea of sacred medicines.
Okay, that's definitely a new one for me.
For centuries, cultures around the world have used substances like ayahuasca, peyote,
Even toad venom?
in their spiritual and healing practices.
Toad venom. Okay, you're going to have to explain that one.
It's called bufotenin. And yeah, it sounds pretty out there, but they don't see these as just drugs.
It's a different perspective, right? Like a spiritual tool.
They use them to connect with something sacred, for healing, for deep personal transformation. And even with bufotenin, There's some research suggesting it might have benefits, but this is where that caution comes in.
Oh yeah, big time.
We need to approach these things with respect, understand the cultural traditions they come from.
It's like we're these explorers venturing into uncharted territory.
And it's a territory that requires a guide.
Someone who knows the way can help us navigate.
Exactly. It's clear that you're not just interested in the science, you want to know how to apply it.
Make it real. Make it work for me.
How to live a more fulfilling life, where well-being is more than just a concept.
It's about putting it all into practice. Walking the walk, not just talking the talk. And that brings us to this book. Un chemin sacré vers une vie que l'argent ne peut acheter.
A sacred path to a life money can't buy. A perfect example of someone taking these ideas and making them their own.
Yeah, the author walked away from a high-powered job, right?
Yeah.
To pursue something more meaningful. That's a pretty radical move.
He found something more valuable than money. He talks about the importance of nature.
Real relationships.
Living in line with your values, finding that balance between the excitement of dopamine and the peace of serotonin.
It's like he figured out how to break free from the system. All those rules that tell us we need things to be happy.
Exactly. And that's a powerful message. Your path to well-being, it's yours to create. We can learn from others, be inspired by them.
But ultimately, we have to figure out what works for us.
Exactly. And as we wrap up this incredible deep dive, what's the one thing I want you to take away? It's simple. This is just the beginning.
Yeah, we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore.
You've learned about your brain, about these powerful substances.
It's about yourself.
Now, the real question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge?
How are you going to use it to create the life you want? That's a powerful question to leave us with. Keep exploring, stay curious, and remember, this is your journey. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the world of brain chemistry, well-being, and the mysteries of consciousness.